Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in AML. I'm John Byrne, Chair of the AMLRS Advisory Board.
And I'm Elliot Berman, our Creative Director. We are excited to welcome you to the This Week in AML podcast,
where we explore key news and developments in the global financial crime prevention community.
Hi, John. How are you today?
Hi, Elliot. Over COVID, so I'm back at almost full strength, and obviously, even though double boosted and double vaxxed, as we all know, you're still susceptible. So happy to be over that, and for folks that are dealing with it, I would suggest if you can get it, the Paxlovid prescription really helps sort of push it through. So it seemed to work pretty well for me. So happy to be back on my feet.
Yeah, glad to hear you're feeling better. You definitely sound,
yeah.
Your voice sounds better than last week and the other conversations you and I have had in the interim. So glad to hear that. So this week, I thought it made sense for us to talk about the priorities that the new FATF president has issued as the plan. But before we talk about that, we probably should let people know what FATF is and what they do and all that kind of stuff. So why don't you just bring our listeners up to speed?
Sure. So the Financial Action Task Force was created back in 1989, and it's a global organization. So it's intergovernmental. So it's populated by government representatives, not political office holders, but governmental staff. And they set standards, international standards that deal with money laundering, terrorist financing, those sorts of issues. They developed a series of recommendations, and that's how the standards are crafted, how each jurisdiction deals with the various recommendations, which get updated from time to time depending on particular issues that they've added over time. Human trafficking, obviously during the pandemic, the frauds that come out of that. And one way that they assess compliance, if you will, with the standards is they do what they call mutual evaluation. So a team of experts made up of the members of FATF from other countries will meet and look at the potential effectiveness of the laws and regulations of each jurisdiction and give you sort of a score or grade, if you will. So this is worked really well, I'd say, not fairly well, really well over time. Now they measure effectiveness, not just whether you have these laws and regs in place. And the president of FATF is now in that office for 2 years. It used to be one. So the first time was the German presidency that just ended. So now the presidency is from Singapore. So for the next 2 years, the president of Singapore helps sort of lead themes and strategies. And I wrote a blog about this. At the plenary, when that handoff occurs, they give you sort of broad-based objectives. And then toward the end of that same month, they list the more specifics. And the incoming president is T. Raja Kumar from Singapore. And he just, on July 1st, issued a series of objectives, which we will talk about, which means in the next 2 years, that's sort of in addition to recommendations and evaluations, these are sort of the focal points of FATF in terms of information sharing and meetings and reports that you'll see over the course of the next 24 months.
Yeah, so I think the change from 1 year to 2 year presidencies is significant because it really does give makes the cycles longer and these kinds of strategic focus items a chance to really get woven into the day-to-day work of FATF and the participating countries. So I noticed that the first of the goals for this presidency relate to what's called strengthening asset recovery, and it's really focusing on the pervasiveness of things like financial crime and the lack of recovery of illicit financial flows. So there's an estimate that less than 1% of illicit financial flows are actually interdicted and recovered.
Right, and FATF, according to the president, will work on this in conjunction with other groups, including Interpol, so UN, IMF, and others, and they'll convene a global roundtable on this. A quick aside, in the class that I teach on money laundering, terrorism, and corruption, I'm going to have the U.S. expert on asset forfeiture speak to the class in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to try to also ask him to sit down for a conversation about asset forfeiture, because it is a big tool, obviously, and this is obviously a focal point for the Singapore presidency, but it's also in the U.S. a place in which funding can help drive a lot of changes as well.
Yes, I think that the theme that, as we talk about some of these other goals as well, the consistent theme and really the underpinnings of FATF's existence really is collaboration and cooperation. So rather than try as an organization itself, it really uses the gravitas that it has because it's made up of the intergovernmental connections to use other intergovernmental connections to really make some of these things happen, as you just mentioned.
Right. The second category is countering illicit finance of cyber-enabled crime, which is obviously an ongoing challenge for FATF and all the jurisdictions. And the Singapore president indicates that they're going to start a new initiative to focus on money laundering and terrorist financing that's linked to cyber-enabled fraud. And they want to try to figure out the various techniques that occur and what sort of tools, data analytics, working with various industries, and try to figure out a way to help the membership deal with attacking cybercrime. So obviously there's other organizations that do this as well, but having FATF engage in this makes a lot of sense.
Yes. The next one is increasing effectiveness of global AML measures. And this one, again, sharing best practices, and they have been the FATF staff has been working on guidance on beneficial ownership information, which they want to complete, which we understand, has been a highlight issue in the financial crime prevention community for a number of years now, and different countries have gone at it differently. There's a requirement in AMLA for the US to spin up some kind of a registry. We haven't seen the regs yet. This pillar also includes adoption of data analytics as a way for people to, which means they'll need to be sharing data so they can do the analytics.
Yeah, they also continue to talk about beneficial ownership. So completion of the guidance on that, which we're dealing with in the US, which obviously is a global concern. And that's obviously a specific FATF recommendation on beneficial ownership information for trust and other legal arrangements. So I think that's something that we'll see here right away, as well as internationally in some of the other jurisdictions, either as response to what the FATF is doing or an ongoing activity that probably is being done to improve the evaluations that FATF engages in to make sure the countries are properly dealing with this information gathering that's so important to dealing with shell companies and those sorts of things.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if over the next number of years, and I think it will be years, whether FATF starts to push for some kind of a global registry or a global exchange of the registries. Again, there at the country level at the moment, to the extent that a country has a global country level registry, each country is going in their own direction. There's certainly similarities, but they're not identical. And it'll be interesting to see if FATF tries to push toward a global standard that would allow the data sets to at least be combined, if not become a global registry.
Right. So we'll keep track of these priorities, and obviously there'll be other things that'll be issued. The next plenary, I believe, is in October, but there'll be other programs. FATF has a lot of good information on their website. They also do webinars that are free, and they have public consultations on various issues, so you can weigh in even if you're not a government representative. So I've always felt over the course of my career, and I know you feel the same way, Elliot, that FATF produces a lot of really good information that can be useful for training purposes and awareness and that sort of thing.
Yes. What do you have that you're working on these days?
Did a very interesting interview yesterday with a staff person from CipherTrace to talk about cryptocurrency issues. So we'll post that in the next few weeks. Also having an interview with the executive director of Wolfsburg sometime next week. And so we'll get some insight from him on what's going on with the private sector regarding best practices and issues of concern there. And, I know we have some webinars coming up.
Yeah, so we're later this month in July, we will be doing a webinar on Know Your Customer, a topic that is old but never gets old, as we continue to think as a community how to capture the best information to understand the risk of onboarding particular customers, and also not just at the snapshot moment of onboarding, but on an ongoing basis. So I think that'll be helpful. If you'd like to sign up for that, you can go to our website, amlrightsource.com, and find the sign up for that. And we'll be doing some other interesting webinars late into the summer and into the fall. So we'll continue to talk about those each week when we're together.
Sounds good, Elliot. Take care of yourself. Have yourself a good weekend. And we'd be remiss, because I know we've mentioned these before, and the unfortunate series of shootings in the United States, which continues to happen, but both in the city of Chicago and in Highland Hills, the loss of life is just awful, and so in so many levels. So we do recognize that, and sadly, I think each week we'd have to mention another one because it doesn't seem to want to stop. So I just want folks to know that we are certainly aware of all the things going on around us.
Yeah, Highland Park, not Highland Hills.
Highland Park, I'm sorry, I apologize, yes.
That's okay. Yes, a continuing, I can't even call it a problem. I think epidemic isn't overstating it. Right. That we need to figure out a way to really face it, and so we can curtail it. All right, John, have a great weekend.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye-bye.